So,
Oh,
or will
please.
you introduce yourself?
I can introduce myself, but you can say something if you like.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is our guest from Poland State University and from the USA, and today he will talk, you see, about youth organizations and activities in the United States. Afterwards, you're welcome with your questions on this topic. Okay?
Great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. How are you? Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Today, as you know, I'll be talking about youth organizations and activities in the U.S. I think you've studied this a little bit. Is that right? You've taken a look? Okay, great. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. This is a picture of me and my family when I graduated from university. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. So in California, I was born and raised. And I went to university, I went to university in Los Angeles. So that's where I studied for 4 years. I studied international relations, so международные отношения, and applied computer security when I was a student. And I graduated in May of this past year. So I'm actually a pretty young teacher. I'm 23. So I'm happy to be here in Belarus. It's very exciting. I work at the university where I teach English. And I will be here until June 2016. So I'll be here the whole year. And hopefully we'll be able to come back maybe more than one time, since I love working with high school students. How does school work in the U.S.? High school, primary school, university, college, these types of things. Then we're going to talk about popular youth activities and movements. So let's talk about service activities, sports, these types of things, you know. What do students do when they go to school? And then finally, I hope we can practice English together. There will be time for questions and discussion, since I don't want to talk the whole time. I want to hear you talk as well. So with that in mind, I would like to start us off with my favorite tongue twister. So, okay? So this is my favorite one, and when I usually teach students for the first time, I like to do this as a little warm-up to break the ice, so we can all get better acquainted. So this is the activity. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. So see how hard that is. So why don't we repeat and try to do this together. So I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. Okay. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. Okay. Now we're going to do it individually, just one time, okay? So why don't we start here? Go ahead, try it.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Yeah, okay, good.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Uh-huh.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Mm-hmm.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Very good.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch. I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Excellent.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Mm-hmm.
I wish to wash my Irish
You got it. Wristwatch, uh-huh.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Mm-hmm.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
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 Mm-hmm.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
This has a lot of hard sounds. Wish to wash, wristwatch. These types of sounds are difficult for Russian speakers. So great job. Good. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is a good tongue twister if you want to practice. Okay, so let's get into the topic today. So first, like I said, I want to talk about the educational system in the United States. I have a chart, a picture I want to show you. But first, I just want to talk about it a little bit. So overall, the system is pretty similar. It's pretty much the same. Students have primary school, high school, middle school, and then they attend university. Just like here, but there are a few differences. So how old are all of you? 16. Okay, so let's see. So 16, you would be right about here. So you would be in what's known as our high school. So the gymnasium is known as high school. And as you can see here, you started about kindergarten, which you have as well, starting about 5 years old, and then you go to primary school from about 7 through 13, and then you enter high school at about 14 or 15. So that's how the system works in the States for primary education and secondary education. And after that, you can attend university. So this is all the advanced degrees, you know, PhDs, these types of things. Dr. No, all of this is up here. We're not going to go into that, but I hope this chart gives you an idea of how old you have to be in different sections. So I hope this is helpful. So one similarity is that the system is free for all citizens, for primary school and secondary school, and that's a very good thing, right? You can attend school for free, not have to worry about payment. Another similarity is that the strong majority of students or kids in each country attend school. So most of you attend school, most children attend school in both of our countries. High school finishes at about 17 or 18. I think I'm right in that research. So you finish about the same time. That's another similarity. And the final similarity, and this is something that we don't like as students, and you may not like either, we do have standardized testing, so central testing to measure performance. And I remember when I was a student, we were always like, oh, why do we have to take this test? But it was important for university, to enter university. And I hear that you have a test too, is that right? A central test? Do you look forward to that test or no? Are you happy about it? Oh, you are. Good for you. Okay. So what are some of the differences? So one difference I noticed in my research is that kindergarten in the US starts at about 4 or 5 and is included in primary school. Enter directly into university. So after about 17 or 18, they tend to enter directly into university. If I'm not mistaken, here there's a step called college, is that right? Where you go before. So that's a difference in our systems. One other difference I noticed as well is that students in high school, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, students in the US in high school tend to work a job during the summers, for example. And university students tend to work while they attend school. When I asked students at my university, I said, do you work part-time, in the grocery store, in the bakery or something? They said no. In the US, most students tend to work a little bit more, I think, with their summers and things like that. They tend to participate in a lot of extracurricular activities. So those are a few differences, but overall, as a whole, our systems are very similar systems. Yeah. How am I talking? Am I talking too fast, or is this okay? It's okay? Okay, if you can understand me now, you're in good shape, because I'm not slowing down. I'm talking normally, like a native speaker, so you can hear it. Okay? So, if I'm talking too fast, just let me know. Okay? Great. So, I wanted to show you some examples. So, what do I mean by extracurricular activities? Activities outside of the classroom, outside of school. So, here's an example here. This is a high school student who's working at a grocery store. This is a very common thing to earn some spending money during the summers when she has a break from school. Here we have something that's very popular at American schools known as the chess club. Do you have a club like this, like a chess club as well? No? You don't? Okay, but it's my understanding that your national history, Russia's national history, very good at chess. So I know it's a popular activity in your countries. And also sports. So this is an interesting sport, lacrosse, which is maybe not as common here, but this is an example of a sport when they attend school. Okay, yeah. And if not, don't worry. We're going to have time at the very end, so don't worry. Yes?
So what is the difference between college and university in the USA?
Okay. So, to be honest with you, college, university mean the same thing in the United States. We hear both, it means the same thing. I know here there's a difference. There's college and then there's university. In the US, we refer to them the same. So that's a good question. I'm sorry, what? Traditions, oh yes, many traditions. High school or college or university, which one, all of them?
Your school.
My school, okay. So my university had a lot of traditions. Ooh, I can think of so many. One tradition is that at the beginning of the year, we have a big football team at my university, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's usually a concert to welcome all the new students into the university and to cheer for the football team. So the football team comes, everyone is cheering for the sports team. So that's a big tradition. One other tradition is we have a rivalry with a school across town. So there's my school, USC, and the rival school, UCLA. So they're our friends, but we have a competition between the two schools. So there's 1 week a year when we have to protect our monument from pranks from the other university. So they might come and they might put their banner on our statue, for example. So what I used to do is I used to camp out in front of the statue and sleep there in the night on the square and keep a lookout to make sure those students didn't prank our statue. So that's what I used to do. And then there were people who used to go to their university and try to put our banner on theirs. So there was both defense and offense. Okay, so that's just an example of a fun tradition, just for spirit. That's a spirit tradition. But great question. Are there any others?
How can people from other countries and university in the USA and do they have to pay for education?
Great question. A resident of the United States. So if you have the right visa, you can go to primary school and high school for free, since that's free for most students. For university, it's a bit different. Unfortunately, this is one of the problems of the American system, is university education tends to be a bit expensive in the United States. We have government universities and we have private universities. The government universities are cheaper. They could be maybe $2,000 a semester, but the private universities can be very expensive. For example, some universities cost maybe $40,000 a year, which is ridiculous. So most students have to take out loans from the bank to pay for their education, and that's why they work. They work to pay off their debt. So that's to answer your first question, if you're a U.S. resident. If you're not, if you want to visit, for example, from Belarus for a year in the States, there are programs that are sponsored. There are called international exchange programs, like mine. I'm here on a government-sponsored exchange program to teach. So they have those for students in high school and at university. So you apply through a national competition, and you can be sponsored to spend a year in the States for free studying. So those are examples of some programs. But generally, it is difficult to find funding to go to university in the States. Absolutely free. It's hard for us as U.S. citizens, let alone students from a different country. So I hope that answers your question. Is that okay? Okay, so before I start, I want to ask you a question. So I'm going to ask you a question. What have you learned about youth activities and movements in the United States so far? Maybe just a few thoughts, because I want to know before I might present to you. What have you learned?
Scouting movement.
Scouting movement. We're going to talk about that. Great. So here we have Boy Scouts of America, as I'm sure you know about, and also the Girl Scouts of America. So these are primary students, maybe about 4th grade or so, the 4th or 5th form. So these are very popular movements in the States. So let's talk about each one of them individually. Okay, so Boy Scouts of America. So it's very popular in the States. It's an organization for boys from about kindergarten through 11th grade, so until the end of high school. And it's a pretty active group. There are over 2 million scouts in the United States. So it's a very popular group. Basically, at every single high school, this type of organization exists, right? And what is the goal of this organization? Well, it's to develop character, leadership, good citizenship, these types of things. And they do that through activities like camping in the woods with your friends. You can participate in a leadership exercise in the classroom, these types of things. And how does this organization work? So there are a lot of parents who help. So your parents might help, might take you to the forest as well, and to the mountains. So these organizations are volunteer organizations, which means people aren't paid to be in them. So you volunteer if you want to help. And if you're a boy, you can rise through the different positions. So in first form, you might have one patch. But if you go to the 11th form, you could, be decked out. So, and that system, it has a uniform system. When I was a boy, I was also a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout for a little while through primary school, and it's a good organization. So here's an example of an outdoor activity by the Boy Scouts. So they went fishing on a lake, and as you can see here, you have the boys and then also some parents here who help out. So this is an example of an outdoor activity. Also, leadership activities. So this is an example of what we call the actual scouting. So you're put with a group of people and you have to find something. So you have to work as a team, how do we get there? Where is the location of the object? These types of things. So this is a leadership activity for the Boy Scouts. Now, of course, girls have an organization too. It's not just the boys, okay? So it's Girl Scouts of America. So it's very similar to Boy Scouts. There's just not as much. There are not as many outdoor activities, but it's pretty much the same. It's for community character, leadership, these types of things to help students become better leaders, right? And Girl Scouts tend to volunteer very frequently to help local organizations, to help the homeless people, these types of things. And there are over 2 million participants, so quite a lot of girls are in Girl Scouts. One of the most iconic Girl Scout events that we know about, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, is called Girl Scout Cookies or Girl Scout Fundraising. Do you know about this or no? You do? Okay. So you probably know more than I do. I'm reading through your textbook. But this is something that everyone looks forward to in the year. And what happens is Girl Scouts, they set up these little stations by the grocery store, by the mall, wherever, and you buy these cookies, and it only comes out one time a year, and the cookies are very tasty, and everyone knows about them. So, oh, Girl Scout cookies, we gotta go. And then you go and then you buy like a whole stock for the year and then you bring them home. And it's okay to buy them and you feel good about it because it helps local organizations. So in this case, these Girl Scouts set up the fundraiser to help local animals who were abused in the pound, lost animals in the streets. So this is an example of an effort for fundraising for Girl Scouts. Just to stop there. So those were the two kind of scouting organizations, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Is there a similar type of organization in Belarus, like scouting? What's it called?
Belarusian Public Scout Association.
Okay.
But we don't have such separation between girls and boys.
Historical separation, and then here it's one group. That's very interesting. Okay, so you have scouting too. And like I said, our systems are pretty similar. So outside of school, one thing that is extremely popular, very popular, I used to do this, a lot of people do it, are organized formal sporting leagues for youth. So here we have a soccer league, and this symbol here, AYSO, is very common in the States. It's the most popular soccer or football league. We have a different name for football. It's kind of confusing, I know. So I did this as a student, and a lot of other people do it as well. And then here you have girls volleyball, which is very popular for girls. And then finally, this is the symbol for Little League baseball. So baseball as well. So most students, when they grow up, they do these sports. But the difference might be is that these sports are not in school, they're outside of school. So they're separate. They're not run by the gymnasium or the high school or anything like that. So that's a difference, maybe. I know that there are sports here. I have friends who do sports as well. And in the States, we too have it, but it's very widespread. It's very popular. This isn't as popular, but I thought it was interesting, so I'll share it with you. So there are some programs at high schools that are sponsored by the military, and what they do is they offer students the opportunity to take classes in maybe military leadership, character building, these types of things. It's different from the Scouts. It's different because it's sponsored by the U.S. government. So the U.S. government may pay a little bit of money to have teachers on site for this type of thing. And it's voluntary. There's no obligation. You don't have to do this. This is just something if you want to try. If you don't like it, you don't have to do anything afterwards. And like I said, it's less popular than other programs, but I think it's something worth mentioning, because some high schools do have this program. It's called ROTC, or the Junior Military Program. And here you see some examples of students in the program, both girls and boys together in the program. So this is an example. Have you heard about this program or no? Okay, so okay, good. I'm glad, so I can give you new information. So this is a program that's not as popular, but it's at about 1,000 high schools in the States. It wasn't at my high school, but at others it was. Okay. So, like I've had a mention of here, volunteer activities, very popular in high school and middle school. One of them I'll share with you happens every year around Thanksgiving. So our Dien Благодарения, do you know about that? Okay, great. So we have that day. And what happens is, on that day, students bring home extra cans of food from home, and they have a food drive. So they bring it home, and here you can see students smiling. There's usually a competition. Which class can bring the most, right? So will this class bring the most? Will the other class bring the most? And there's usually a prize at the end. So it could be special recognition. So a picture of your class on the wall, for example. So what they do is they bring the food, and then there are local charities, local organizations who pick up the food and give it to people who are less fortunate. So this is an example of a volunteer activity that happens around Thanksgiving and is very common at just about every school in the United States. One other aspect that I personally love these days, because there's great food during these days, is that we have multicultural days. Because as you know, the U.S. is a very diverse country, very diverse, many ethnicities, many races together. So usually there is something that's known as a multicultural day, where people of different cultures, for example, if their grandparents came from Greece, like in my case, I'm Greek, my family came from Greece after World War II, I might bring Greek food, right? So I might bring a little Greek food, I might bring the Greek flag, for example. So people bring the flags, items, traditions, foods from their heritage to school that day. So this is also very common to have these types of cultural activities. We say cultural activities. Great, okay. Now we're going to move on to my favorite part, since I just graduated from university. So university organizations. So university level organizations, there are many of them. They're huge. At my university, we had over 600 organizations. So this is a very common thing for students to be involved outside of the classroom. So here you can see something at my university. It's called the Involvement Fair, and you see how students are walking around, and there's posters and information about the different clubs on campus, the different organizations. So in your first year as a student, you walk around and you say, I want to try this, maybe I'll try this is interesting, and you choose which organizations you want to try out, which organizations you want to try out. So here I have some examples. So arts, athletics, comedy clubs, engineering clubs. We have a group that builds a race car at the university, so they work the whole year and they build a race car. So there are many different types of organizations. Tourism, you can go tour your local city. It's very common. And like I said earlier, most students are involved in many of these organizations. So they don't just go to class. They're also involved in these organizations as well. So what do I mean? So this is an example from my day. So there's me, and this is kind of my group here. So this is student government. So at universities in the United States, there's usually an organization, and there's one here too. It's called like the Council of Students or something of that nature, where you do things like, if teachers have questions about something, they can come to you. You organize concerts for everyone, group activities. My organization had a great job. We would give, hello. So, this is a spirit organization. So as you can see, there I am with some of my friends. So there are multiple spirit organizations at university for sports. So, to play sports at university in the States, you have to be very good, right? I wasn't very good, so I didn't play. You have to be very good, like professional level. So, those who didn't play would watch and support our teams, and I was in a group where we would paint ourselves just for fun to show some school spirit. So these types of activities are very common at universities. So 20,000 graduate students, so aspiranti, and then us 20,000, so 50%, 50%. So because of that, we had to have a big stadium. So this is where our football team plays, and it's a very common thing to celebrate what we call game day. So this is a tradition, and game day is a big celebration on every Saturday where you get together and you celebrate before the game. So there's usually some type of a barbecue on campus, right? Then there's a parade with our marching band, and then this is, just an example of myself with family and friends. So this game day phenomenon, it's kind of slang, but if you hear it, game day, it means the day of the game, you celebrate with family and friends. It's a really good time. And then I want to show you this picture because people always get a kick out of it. Do you recognize who this is? Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? And I put this up here because one thing that's common at American universities, and I'm sure here as well, is to invite leaders to give talks. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was a major actor, we know, in Hollywood, right? And since my school was in Los Angeles, they brought him to give a talk to students. And I was lucky to catch a picture with him. So this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is one of my professors. And when I met him, I shook his hand, I said hello, and then he said, "I'll be back." And then he left. And then I didn't see him again. He said, "I'll be back." No, I'm kidding. But he was a very nice guy. You know, he's getting a little bit older, but he's still a very nice guy. But anyway, so we call these special events. So special events with leaders, with politicians, whoever, they come to campus. Speaking of politicians, one thing that's common in the U.S. system are political organizations. So, for example, you probably know this in our system. We have a two-party system, Republicans and Democrats. So at university, there's a group for young Republicans, young Democrats, and they usually get together and host debates. So here's an example of a debate at an American university. You have the Democrats on one side and the Republicans on the other, and they could talk about issues like environmental protection, education problems, these types of things. So at universities, this is quite common to have these types of political organizations. One thing that's very common too for service is ecological protection, right? To protect the environment. And this is very common. Here is a picture of a beach cleanup. So you have here students who are helping to clean up a local beach in Los Angeles. And these types of things happen regularly. We have days of service, so probably one day a month. All students go out together and they help do something good for the community. So this is picking up trash from the beach, these types of things. Youth movements, because in the States, we're a very large country, a lot of ethnicities, a lot of groups, and it's very hard to name national movements. But the Scouts are an example of a national movement, right? So it was very hard for me, so I couldn't do all of it. I just did a tiny bit, but I hope you got a better idea of what our system is like, what types of organizations, what types of movements, these types of things. And again, just to summarize, to conclude, as we say, the popular themes are service, athletics, and leadership. So those are the three kind of main pillars of all of these organizations. So service to the community, becoming a good person, having good character as a leader, and service. So, with that, now we can have time for questions and discussion. So this is the best part. So,
work in hospitals and kindergartens as volunteers. Have you ever worked as a volunteer?
So there was an organization when I was in high school with a group of students, and we would do good things for the community. So the beach cleanups, these types of things. I was a volunteer in that. I also volunteered to help them fundraise for an organization in college that raised money for children on the continent of Africa, for example. So I did a lot of things like that when I was growing up, but never at a hospital. That's interesting. A lot of students, that's true, volunteer at hospitals, but not every student. So that's something to think about. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Okay, no, thank you. Yeah.
Do you think that educational system in America is perfect? And are there any problems?
Oh, there are many problems. It's definitely not perfect. So this is kind of an economic thing. But the cost of the school is going up more than usual, more than normal. And because of that, a lot of students have to take out loans to pay for the school, or they can get a scholarship. I was lucky, I got a scholarship, so my school was free, which was great. But a lot of other students, unfortunately, have to go to a bank or to the school and take out a loan and pay it back over the course of maybe 10 years. So each month after you graduate, each month you pay a little bit, so just a little bit amount of your salary. So that can be inconvenient. Another problem with American universities is that some analysts think that they could be more diverse. So primary school and high school is fine, everyone goes, but in universities there tend to be, for example, more white people than the other ethnicities. So some people view that as a problem. Why that is? It's probably because the testing system may favor people with money to pay to prepare for the test, right? If you want to do well on the test, you have to study for it. So people with money can hire a tutor, for example, and the tutor will help them on the test. And lower income folks, which includes minorities, so some black people, maybe some Hispanics who are in the lower income bracket, they can't hire the tutor for the test. So because of that, their testing scores tend to be lower and they can't enter university as often. So that's a problem, is making sure the university system is more equal for everyone to enter. One other issue for teachers that may interest you is that teachers get tenure less often than they used to get it. So at universities now, it tends to be a year-by-year contract. Each year there's a contract for teachers. Whereas before, if you were a teacher, it could be a 5-year contract or a 10-year contract. Nowadays, it goes year to year. So teachers don't have as much stability or security as they did before. So that's an issue that my professors used to tell me about when I was a student. So anyway, so those are a few issues. As you can see, it's far from perfect. But I really enjoyed my time at university. There are a lot of great things about our university. To give you an example, my university, the primary goal, the primary aim was research, not teaching. To maybe solve the problem of cancer, for example, to go into space, these types of things. So universities are very research-oriented in our country, which is good because it helps create new ideas, new knowledge. So that's an example of a good thing of our system. And I had a lot of fun when I was a student. Just simply, it was a good time as a student. In the American system, university is known as being the best time in your life, as we say, because it's just such a great time. Excuse me. So I hope that answers your question. Some problems and some good things.
Your scout experience and what influenced your decision to become a scout?
Okay, so scouting, okay. I mainly did it because it was popular, and I thought this is a good time to spend time with friends. And also, my parents said, you should do this. I was 5 years old, so I didn't really know what was going on. But I did it, and that's why I did it. And I did it for about maybe 5 years or so. I'm too long. I didn't go through the whole thing. And I remember the outdoor activities. I remember learning to tie knots, as a student, as a scout. So those are some fond memories of what I remember. It was a good time. I just remember it since I was young as a time to spend with friends and doing teamwork. That's just about all I remember. I have friends, though, who went all the way, so who went through high school, and they become something that's known as an Eagle Scout. Have you heard that term, an Eagle Scout? So that's the highest level of scouting, and that's actually very, very prestigious in the States. If you become an Eagle Scout, universities will look and go, the student has a lot of dedication, did a lot of things, is a good student, so that'll help you get into university. Because in the US system, it's not just the test at university that matters or grades. It's also you have to write a statement about yourself. What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? And you have to get 2 letters of recommendation from teachers. So the American system, extracurricular activities are important. So people who become Eagle Scouts, high-ranking scouts, they look good because they stayed with the program. So hope that answers your question. Yeah.
What do you know about youth organizations in Belarus?
Good question. So to be honest with you, not too much, but I know about the university system better since that's where I work. I know there's a magazine or a newspaper, a magazine called Nastiej. It's the student publication, and I talk with students. They did an interview of me in that magazine. So I know that there's that. I know that there's sports. I know that there is a traditional Belarusian dance group, and I go every Saturday and I dance. That's where I've picked up a little Belarusian, Jak vaši spravi, usio dobra, Privetania, ja, chlopiec, da, mova, on these types of things. So learning a little on Belarusian there. There's some Belarusian organizations. So I know that that's, and then also that organization you mentioned, it's like scouting in college. It's like the Republican Belarusian society something.
Union.
Yeah, union, something like that. But what else is there? Maybe you can tell me.
Pioneer organization.
Oh, Pioneer. Is that with these scarves? Yeah, okay, yeah. So you have the little scarves, right? Yeah. So, okay, so that's a common thing. Okay, so you have Pioneers, there's the
Belarusian Union.
Union. Mm-hmm.
Youth Union. Then students' government.
I was also president of my high school, so we're similar, of the council.
Yes, and there are a lot of different clubs. Yes, some students.
Oh, you do? Dancing? Great.
Yes.
Do the boys do it or no?
Yes.
You do?
Majority of these boys
Good.
dance.
And I say, why aren't there more boys here? It's a good opportunity to dance. But anyway, It's my personal opinion. So that's good. Okay. How about sports? Are sports a part of the gymnasium as well? Okay. So our systems are similar, like I said. So that's good. Okay. Great. Good question. Any other questions about anything at all?
I just wonder if they managed to build that race car or not.
They did. So I wish I had a picture to show you. And that's how I knew about this. And they actually built the race car. It's not like a BMW or something. It's like a small little go-kart. You know, it's a little go-kart. And they built it, and what they do is they race it. There's a competition with other universities. And whoever builds the fastest car, whoever drives it the best, they win the national competition, for example. So they actually built the car. Yeah. Anything else? If you want, you can ask me about my life, my family, anything at all. And just about any question is fair game here, as we say. Anything at all. Not just about youth movements, but about anything you might like. Yeah.
What can you say about university life in the USA?
I can say that it is a fantastic time. I really had a great time. I have a separate presentation that I made. Maybe next time we can do it about university life and culture in Los Angeles. I have a lot of pictures there about my time there, but I really enjoyed it. You live in the dorms, right? The общежитие, or here it's called hostels, I think is the word that's used. There's so many stories I could tell. Pranks, these types of things. Yeah, jokes. Maybe I'll tell one of them. Tricks. Okay, so I'll tell you one of the pranks, just because it's a fun story. When I was a student in my dorm room, we have 2 beds. 2 people live in each room, okay? And one of my close friends, my neighbor, Amir, he went to the film school, right? And actually, this is a great story. Do you know Star Wars? Yes. Okay, Star Wars, okay. So Amir, he's the personal assistant to J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is the director of Star Wars. He works for J.J. Abrams, so he's a very successful guy. Anyway, so when we were both students, we were both 18 years old, he played a prank on me. So this is what happened. So I was sitting in my room, and we were talking together, and then all of a sudden I look towards my bed, and I see smoke. I'm coming out from under my bed, like smoke. And I said, what's going on, Like, is there a fire? Because they told us if there's a fire, and you start the fine is $100,000, right? So, so $100,000 fine if you start a fire. So I said, oh my God, there's a fire starting. I'm gonna get fined. So I pulled out everything underneath my bed. I rip out my cabinets, everything. And it turned out he took a fog machine from the film school and put it under my bed and turned it on when I wasn't looking. So he scared me, which was pretty scary. One other example was we had our friend Jack, who lived on the floor. We thought, we were so mean, we thought it would be a good idea for Jack to write a letter from the university, so a fake letter, with the university letterhead, University of Southern California, and write that he was expelled because of his grades. So we had this whole letter, and we said, Jack, we got this letter from the dean, you should look at it. And we gave it to him, and he opened it, and then he just started crying, and then we felt so bad for him, and we said, no, it's a joke. So anyway, and then he played pranks on us. So anyway, that's just an example of like life in the dorms, like harmless jokes that is an example of the friendships. So that I liked. I loved my classes. I had some great professors when I was a student. One class actually took place in St. Petersburg and Finland and Sweden because we were looking at Arctic issues. So borders in the Arctic, ecological security in the Arctic, environmental protection, these types of things. So we took 4 weeks and went to the Arctic, which was very neat. I have a picture in a different presentation. So I like my classes, the dorms. I worked every summer as a student, so I was able to get experience, professional experience. So overall, really great time. And I think it'll all be great for you too, because I'm here at PGU and I'm really enjoying it. We have a good time. It's a really good university. So something to look forward to. Just do well on those tests, those standardized tests. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Wow.
They will remind you about us and our school.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you. Thank you. These are great. Thanks so much. Have a good day, guys, and I'll see you soon.